For more now on how we keep track of the Taliban, let's bring in former Navy SEAL and former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, Jonathan Gilliam, plus Stephen Rogers. He's also a former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force and a retired police detective as well. Jonathan, let me start with you on this one. Is there really a way to track these prisoners once the travel ban is lifted?
I would have to say no. I mean, there are ways through sources that we can track these individuals, but the reality is these 5 guys should have never been released, especially for Bowe Bergdahl. I mean, take the politics out of this. I know the reporter there was just talking about the Republicans being angry about stuff. There are people that are operators that are in the intel community that are furious over these individuals. I mean, al-Baghdadi, who's the head of ISIS, went through a similar incarceration over in Iraq and then got out and became the head of ISIS. So that's just one individual, and look at what that's caused. So now we have 5 high-level guys who could have potentially stayed in jail for the rest of their lives because of the parts that they played in this war, and now they're going back over to the battlefield.
And also, Stephen, very concerning, earlier this year, the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, released a report saying that one of the prisoners had actually contacted the Taliban since being released from Gitmo. Is there any way to tell or track if these men are plotting revenge of some sort?
Well, Jonathan's right. It's going to be near impossible. And let me add this, Randy, that in your report, you stated that, or the reporter stated that, there will be a danger to our troops in Afghanistan. But you want to know something? They're going to be a very, very clear and present danger to every citizen of this country. These are operational commanders, and in my estimation, they're going to want to get even with us, and they're going to plot to do something catastrophic here. What a national security blunder this was.
And Jonathan, how concerned are you? I mean, with all this talk that they may go to Afghanistan, does it tell you that they have future plans?
Well, you have to realize, Randy, these are individuals that are a part of an ideology. They're not just going to give up that ideology. They did time in a prison. They're out. They're going to go straight back in that fight. And let me just say this one thing. We watched Germans that were killed, were executed for doing less to Jewish detainees than these individuals have done to people over in Afghanistan and Iraq. I mean, these people are guilty of war crimes, not just leading the different groups. These are actually wartime criminals.
Yeah, and as you said, taking the politics out of it's still a concern. Also, when it comes to tracking the terrorists here in America, the director of the FBI says that the agency is facing an extraordinarily difficult challenge keeping up with the growing number of potential terror suspects here in the United States. Listen.
But I can't stand here with any high confidence when I confront a world that's increasingly dark to me and tell you that I've got it all covered.
So the FBI is now asking for help from local police departments. In New York, the police department wants to add an additional 450 officers to its counterterrorism unit. The big question here is, of course, how safe is the U.S. from a terror attack? Stephen, I mean, what do you think? You touched on it there a moment ago that you think that they're going to be targeting us here in the U.S., but how nervous should we be, or do you think that maybe we have it under control?
The FBI has done an extraordinary job so far, but I could tell you when I was on the National Joint Terrorism Task Force in 2002, there was a complete lack of intelligence sharing. There is some now, but let me add that local law enforcement officers have to be trained in the gathering and analysis of intelligence. There's where we're going to get the information, on the streets of this country. And until the Department of Homeland Security begins to start funding police departments for what is a war, not a criminal act, a war, we're going to find ourselves in serious trouble.
And Jonathan, what do you think? I mean, what should we take from the fact that the FBI is overwhelmed, which certainly sounds concerning, and needs assistance from now local police departments?
Well, I think the word overwhelmed, we need to just take that word out, because the reality is the FBI is not an entity that does policing on the ground. We don't have officers that go and patrol neighborhoods. I mean, that's what police do. I think what you're seeing is not an overwhelming of the FBI. You're seeing a lack of an overall strategic plan to fight this war completely. And now that incorporates domestic defense as well as offensive movements by local law enforcement and coordinated federal agencies, but also overseas. We don't see an overall strategic plan, and that is where things start to break down. We have a national academy that a lot of police officers come to in Quantico. They train side by side with us when we're in the FBI academy a lot of the times. That needs to be utilized further so guys can go back out, men and women that go to this can go back out and have a more standardized relationship with the Bureau.
And Stephen, I mean, it is sort of scary that the FBI says that they can't keep up, at least, with all the possible terror suspects. I mean, should we believe that there are that many out there at this point?
Oh, I've said all along they're here, and it's a matter of now setting up operations. I'm concerned about the Patriot Act, for example, being tinkered with. I'm concerned about some of the things that we've done to at least be very proactive and prevent terrorist attacks. But intelligence information sharing has always been from the top down. Now it has to come from the top up, meaning from the streets to our national law enforcement agencies.
And Jonathan, what about the money? I mean, do we really have the money for the hiring and the training of these officers to help the FBI?
Well, I'll tell you, Randy, again, we need to have a shift in this country to stop thinking that we have to spend in order to stop terrorism or to stop these operatives inside the country. You know, look at a big retail store. They can put 100 cameras in there. They hire one guy that's not really that well trained. It's not going to do any good spending the money. You need to start taking these officers that are already on the ground and training them effectively, not just smoke and mirrors, but effectively how to look, where to look, when to look, and start thinking like somebody who might be doing an attack so they can look in that direction and then try to spot these people. Also, sources. The more sources we have on the ground here, the more relationships we have with mosques, which is not a part of this conversation and should be. The Muslim community themselves, they're going to do far more than the FBI and the local law enforcement if they get their act together and start working in conjunction with all these entities.